Imagine if Dragon Ball GT didn't end in 1997, continued on, and around its 80th episode, it just changed to digital coloring. Well, that's what almost happened to GT, as many of Toei's anime were doing just that in the late 90s. 7 months earlier, Gegege no Kitaro, boom, switches over mid-season. And only 5 months after GT's last episode, there wouldn't be a single Toei TV anime series being painted on cels anymore, with one of their detective shows being the last to switch. Mid-season as well. And the series that literally aired the week after GT's last, same thing, all digitally painted now. Using Retas Pro, you also have like CG effects in the opening and digital textures overlaid. They even did this merger in one of the endings of like 3D backgrounds with 2D stuff spliced in. Like Toei were really jumping all into the digital wave in the late 90s, although I should say they were kinda leading the way alongside Studio Ghibli, being the first two major studios to change their coloring production pipeline to digital. And so it's undoubtedly what would have happened to Dragon Ball GT if it had continued on for just a few months more. And in some ways, we kinda got a glimpse at that strange what if timeline, because literally the next time we see Goku on screen, just a year and a half later for a Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball crossover special mini arc thing that lasted several episodes, there he is. Definitely a bit of an aesthetic change up. On a side note, they both had the same character designer, but I kinda prefer this one. Less shiny highlights, and the simpler shading style reminds me of OG Dragon Ball. Although let me know which design you prefer in the comments. But it isn't just the coloring process that changed, because the directors don't hold back on testing out new CG effects. Like there's this one part where Goku transforms into a great ape. And they add this digital morphing effect. The result speaks for itself. Like if Goku going Super Saiyan 4 happened only a year or two later, guaranteed someone would have done the same. Dodged a bullet there. Now for Toei's films, they actually did stick to cels for a bit longer. It was just all the TV shows that had switched. However, even in them you were starting to see the most random CGI stuff layered in now. And fun fact, the film I'm showing was directed by one of Dragon Ball Z's top directors, Shigeyasu Yamauchi, who also directed the first two Broly movies as well as Fusion Reborn, so it's clear that Dragon Ball Z's former staff were definitely not worried about adding CG into their work, and I have no doubt if a Dragon Ball film did come out in this time, the same thing probably would have happened. Also for context, everything I've just said is mainly in reference to just the coloring process being digitized, not the actual animation one. As I detailed in the last video, pencil and paper, it's still used to this day, and all of the animators at Toei would have still been using it then, and the transfer over to using drawing tablets was incredibly slow. The majority of 2D animation from the 2000s and 2010s was done on paper, including shows like Dragon Ball Super. Backgrounds, art as well remained hand-painted in Toei shows. I mean, you can still find traditional painted background art even now in their current big titles. So yeah, please don't confuse with what I've said so far, as everything going digital. But yeah, Retas Pro, it kind of just swept the cel process away in Toei's TV anime. This software actually existed in 1993, originally was just for business use. Toei then bought it in 1996, and in a few years it becomes the industry standard, then sort of died in 2015, Clip Studio Paint becomes its successor, although a lot of studios just still kept using good old Retas Pro anyway. Now back to GT, it really makes me wonder how a switch over in medium would have affected the reputation of the series if it did hypothetically continue on just a little longer. Would it have been a Hunter x Hunter 99 situation where fans are like, the TV series looks amazing, but ignore the Greed Island OVAs, they kinda look terrible and don't exist. I guess in that timeline I'd be here making a why did GT style suddenly change video or something, but with that, Thanks for watching. I was looking into Toei's production history for the zoography part in the last video and came across a lot of interesting info, so thought I'd share some of what I didn't get to say there here instead. Also, thank you to my patrons, and I'll see you later. Well, a lot later this time.